Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jane Hewitt and I'm the Capability Building Coordinator at Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand are part of the Info Exchange Group, a not-for-profit social enterprise that tackles the biggest social challenges through the smart and creative use of technology. For those of you who haven't attended a webinar session with us before, Connecting Up and TechSoup facilitates an annual training calendar of online webinars, workshops, bootcamps and webcons to help the social sector upskill in all things digital. And you can check out our training and education menu on the websites for more events coming up for the rest of the year. So welcome today to today's webinar, Website Health Check with Belle Temby from Digital Services Lab. And just before we begin, we'll just start with a bit of housekeeping. All lines are muted, so if you have any technical issues, please just type them into the questions box on your GoToWebinar panel and I should be able to help. And if you've got any questions during the session, please also type them into the questions box and Belle will answer them in the Q&A that will be coming up at the end of today's webinar. Please note that your comments and questions won't appear to the entire group. If you're on a Wi-Fi connection and have multiple programs open, this can sometimes affect the quality of the audio and the video, so please just close any programs that you aren't using. And please note that this webinar is being recorded and you'll get a copy of the recording and the slides towards the end of today or tomorrow. And just before we start, I'd like to remind everybody that we do send out a really short survey that will be popping up at the end of today's webinar, and we'd really appreciate if everybody took a couple of minutes to fill in this to give us some feedback. So that's all from me, and I'll pass over to Belle to get things started.
Thank you, Jane. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for the website health check. This is the second time that I have ran this webinar, so I'm really excited to be here today. Before we begin, I would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So I am here today from Digital Services Lab, and I'm just, there we go. I'm Belle Temby. I'm the director at Digital Services Lab, and other than being a website specialist working for non-profits and for-purpose businesses, I also run digital strategy training and enjoy guest presenting on podcasts and webinars just like today. I live in the beautiful tiny town of Mallacoota on the far east coast of Victoria, Australia. And in my downtime, you'll find me on one of the many beaches here with my dogs, who are in the picture here, and my husband. I also enjoy cooking up a storm in the kitchen. So I have a background leading, working and volunteering in the not-for-profit sector and have studied social science, software development and marketing. And this led me to open Digital Services Lab. So I'll just give you a little run through of our business. So we are a for-purpose business ourselves, and we service a range of not-for-profits and other for-purpose businesses. So we hope to see many other companies and businesses joining the ranks of acting ethically and socially responsible. We love working with non-profits. I have a particular passion for it. And some of the services that we run are web design and development. And within that, we offer learning management systems, community directories, event management systems, online fundraising tools, and integrations and automations that make a not-for-profit flow more effectively in their day-to-day operations. We also offer website care and security, video production services, and Google Analytics dashboards, and some graphic design services as well. So our clients come from, our clients come from all over Australia. They include local government, non-profits and other for-purpose businesses. And I hope that this demonstrates to you that I'm well placed today to give you the top 10 tips you need to focus on to have a brilliant website. Before we get started today, I'd just like to hear a little bit about you. So Jane, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the first poll, I'd like to learn what type of non-profit our audience is working in. And we haven't been able to cover them all the range here today, so please select either the top 4 or other. Okay, great. So we have, it seems it's a good mix today. We have 38% coming from health and community service organisations. We've got 10% coming from sporting and rec clubs, 24% from professional and business associations, and then 10% from cultural, religious or social organisations, and 19% are coming from other. So thank you for that, Jane. That's good to learn about everybody today. So just to clarify why we're here today, we're here to check the health of our website. So that will include getting some inspiration for improving your website, to learn some practical steps to help your website shine online, to get some tools and tips that will help you measure your website's effectiveness, and to learn how a good website can help make an impact and connect with your community in the best way that you can. Okay, so let's start with the top 10 tips. So I hope you have a pen or paper handy, or you're taking some notes on your computer. But where we start today is, before even looking at your website and reviewing your website, it's good to make sure that you have clarity on the purpose of your not-for-profit. So we want to reveal your organisation to the world. So before we look at the website, one of the tips I have is to write down your why. So nearly every not-for-profit I meet has a big heart and a big reason you exist, a resounding why. And one of the biggest deficits that I see when I review a non-profit's website is that they actually forget to share that front and center. It could be on the homepage, and their why gets lost, and that makes it really confusing for people to understand exactly what it is you do. So I want you to write down your why, identify it clearly, think about the problems that you solve for people. It's really important that you know what problems you solve, and then to think about your point of difference. So an example of a point of difference is that you have a special club or a special focus. You might be the only one in the region doing it. You might have an ambassador or people that love what you do that have influence over other people. So another point of difference might be that you're the only one in a 50-kilometre radius offering a type of course or event or whatever the offer might be. And that you have, you might also have a strong membership, indicating plenty of opportunity for people to meet other people. You might have special networking or friendship building events. So have a think about what your point of difference is. Think about the solutions that you solve for people, and think about what it is, why it is that you exist. So then I want you to go to your website after you've done this exercise, look at your homepage, and does your homepage actually reveal this about your organisation? And I'll explain why that's important a little bit further on, but that's the first tip today. Okay, so the second tip, this all probably sounds really simple, but these are steps that you should take to make sure that you do have a good, healthy website. So my next tip is to list everything, every little activity that you do, and you might put that into categories. So if you have programs, what are all of the programs that you run? Services, events, training workshops, courses, one-on-one group supports. What fundraising events do you offer? Raffles, silent auctions, donor programs, fun runs, it could be anything. Write them all down. Are you an organisation that focuses on advocacy? Great, so what are the activities that you do to get your message out there? How do you raise awareness, right? All of those activities down. It might be that you do news releases, that you lobby government. It could be a range of things. Write them all down. Then products that you sell, so any type of product, and that might cross over into your fundraising, as it often does in a not-for-profit setting, but think about all of the products you sell and list them all down. And then anything else that you do, it might actually be, and it fits into raising awareness, but you might conduct research, or you might offer a knowledge bank of information to people. So once you've written all of that down, my next suggestion is that you put a little checkbox next to all of those things, and then you look at your website and you tick what is covered on your website. So have you actually provided people with all of the relevant information about what you do? And if you haven't covered all of these programs, fundraising events, if you haven't covered all of the activities of the organization, how could we expect a person to know that you do it, to get involved in your work, to contact you and to take action? And I guess I would be looking for a reason that it's not on your website. So if you offer a program, service, activity that's not covered on your website, why is that not covered? So unless you have a good explanation for it, it really should be there in the structure of your site. Now, what we need to think about once we've done this exercise is to think about who it is that we're actually talking to. So if you've attended webinars, which many of us did in 2020, you've probably heard a lot about audience and knowing your audience. So understanding who your website is for is particularly important in being able to communicate everything that you do. So I've got some examples here of all of the different range of stakeholders, and you actually as a nonprofit have a somewhat harder job than other businesses because you have such a broad range of stakeholders. More often than not, we have clients, we have members, we have referrers, we have people that donate, we have partners, we have grant makers, we have a lot of people that all have eyes on our organization. So it's really important that when we're building a website or when you're reviewing a website, that you actually know who your audience is. So in the same manner that I asked you to write down all of your services, I'd like you to write down all of your audience types. So who is your organization for? And then you should know who your website is for as well. And what we really want to understand about our websites and our audience deep dive is, do we have an appropriate section of our website dedicated to this person? So if you provide services, for example, health services, and it might be people that have a health crisis, what you may want to do is have a section for people that are referring for family members or for friends, because the person in crisis may not be the help seeker. So have a think about all of your audience types, and I just want to get an idea from you of how many audience types you have. So Jane, could we have the second poll, please? Just get an idea from our participants today about how many audience types do you have. So do you have just one, or are you all the way up there in the 5+? Okay. And just a little bit more time to answer and we'll be good. Here we go. Okay, yep. So it looks like everybody has over 2 or more audience types, and yeah, 58% have 5+. So it's a really interesting dilemma or challenge that you have to actually make sure that your website meets the expectations of those audiences. So another tip that I have for you with your audience types is to list that person in order of priority. So everybody is a priority, I understand that, but who do we need to speak to? Who do you need to speak to on your home page first and foremost? What and who can be missed? Who can have a page? It might be the referrer page, it could be the donor page. Who is it that needs to be spoken to immediately on the home page? Okay, now in understanding all of the audience types, we then move on to a deeper dive in knowing your audience. So before, having a website is great. It's absolutely needed. You need to have a professional website to represent your organization, to introduce your organization to people that have never found you before. But as we know, the way that people come to your website, so the traffic that leads people to your website, we need to understand where are they online. Everything that happens before a person gets to your website is important. And it's important because you need to know where to focus your time and effort in reaching those people to bring them back to your website so that they can be introduced to your organization. So you've listed your audience type. You know who the priority audience is. Now, where are they online? Are they reading news online? Are they on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn? What social media channels are they actually participating in? Or are they on Google? So one of the things about Google is that people ask Google questions that they wouldn't ask their doctor or their best friend. Google is like the secret keeper of the world. So nearly 95% of individuals are using Google as their preferred search engine. And you could almost guarantee that your audience members are actually using Google to find answers to the problems that they solve. So that is one deep dive into an audience that I could give you. The second one is, how would they come to you? So how would your audience types find you? Is it because you've reached out to them directly? Have they been referred by someone? Have they found you online or followed you? And what information are they looking for? So are they looking for a phone number, a service explainer? Are they looking to meet your team and understand the impact you have? So what kind of expectations do your audience have? Often, if they're going to be dealing on a more personal or vulnerable level with you, they're going to want to be able to read a case study, to hear from another client of yours, or to see if you're a good fit for each other. So once you've done your deep dive into your audience, again, it's time to look back at your website and see if you've met those needs. And if you are in the places, if you're also participating in those places where your clients are or your audience are online. So the next tip we have, once we've got all of that, the audience, our why, and the what we do worked out, we want to move along to check your actual website pages. So first impressions really do matter. You have around 6 to 8 seconds for a person to decide if they're going to keep engaging with your website. The way that your website looks matters, the way that it loads matters, and I'll go more into technical details soon. But your homepage, the page that most people go to, your homepage matters so much. And it needs to provide a proper introduction that is easy to follow for people who have visited. It needs to have catered to your audience, and it needs to be an absolute true representation of what your organization does. It sounds really simple, but many of the websites that I look at, they don't do this at all. In fact, information that should be on the home page is pages deep in navigation, sometimes not even on the main menu. So it is really important to review your homepage quite critically, as if you had never heard of your organization before. One way to do this, one tip that I have for you to do this, is to have somebody that is less familiar with your organization than people within your organization to actually look at the homepage and give you some feedback. So if you can get that kind of external feedback about what might be missing, that could be an invaluable exercise for you to know what to update. Your other pages on your website, they need to feature the right content. They need to speak to those audience types. So if you're trying to speak to 5+ audience types on one page, you're going to most likely lose everybody unless you have really clearly and concisely used good use of headings and subheadings, so that your 5 audience types might come to one page. They can scan that page quickly and they can see whether or not, or they can find the place that they need to go to next. So the whole idea of a website is that it provides an introduction to your organization, but it's also a set of instructions of what that person does next. So the why, the what, the who, and the what's next is important on every page. So if you have a page and it's a service explainer page, this is what we do. Great, okay, that's what you do. Excellent. What do you want the person to do once they've read that information? Should they be reading another page? Should they be contacting your organization on the phone, emailing you? What is it that you want someone to do once you've delivered that information? Just like a book, we need to turn the next page. A website should tell us what to do next because you're giving us instructions. We're taking your lead. So make that easy for us. Some other simple, but often I find these errors in websites. Some other advice is that to actually go and test all of your buttons and forms on every single page. So if you're taking the effort and energy of reviewing your website from all these different perspectives, make sure that it works. And we'll get into checking the content more shortly, but each page should be clean and clear. It should clearly guide people to what's next. It needs to make sense to the audience that it's intended for, and it needs to load quickly and work on multiple devices. So essentially, your site is an informative instruction guide that works. Okay. Then my tip 5 is to check your content. So what I'm talking about with content today is any media file or text that is applied to your website pages. So firstly, think about the words that are on your website and when they were last reviewed, or if they were reviewed at all. Who wrote them? And are they still at the organization, or is it time to actually redo the copywriting? That's the words on your website. Is it time to redo that copywriting? Is it outdated and in need of being refreshed? So read and assess it again as if you had never visited your website before. Read the information on the website. Is it clearly, is it written appropriately for your audience? So I think we talk about this a lot, or I certainly did when I was working not-for-profit directly. We have jargon of the sector that we really easily fall into, but it's not appropriate for the clients that you have or family members that might refer you. So are your pages dedicated to partners in government, or is it dedicated to the referrers and the clients that are receiving your services directly? A clever website will be able to cater to each, and that's by having pages for each of those audience types. The text is important. Using strong cursive fonts, it might look good, but on a website it's actually really difficult to read. And so if I have vision impairment, which I do, I have glasses to correct that impairment, but some people have vision impairment, some people are older, so we need to make sure that we use a good font, an easy to read font, and try to avoid over cursive text. Can we scan pages in around 6 to 8 seconds so it makes it easy to find the information that we're looking for? So a good use of headings and subheadings is very important on every page, because our behavior online is to scan, and we have so much information that we're trying to get through all the time that we scan and we find what we're looking for. If I just see words of text, like very long words of text, an A4 page worth of text, with nothing breaking that up, then I usually get confused or disinterested, disengaged, and I just leave your website. So when you're checking the health of your website, make sure that it's easy for people to read and follow. Your images and your videos. So media files are images, videos, audio, so it could be podcasting, vlogging, whatever it is you're doing. Make sure they are good quality and they're optimized. When using audio files or video files, make sure that they are hosted by a third party. And I have a link in my slides here to tinypng.com. They offer optimization on a regular image, on a static image. So you can upload your JPEG file or your PNG file, and without losing any quality of the image, it will optimize it, compress it, and deliver it to you so that you can put it on your website without taking up valuable space and loading time. So it helps increase your performance. And then in checking your content, we need some validation. So if I'm visiting a website, I actually want to see what other people are saying about you. And social proof really matters. So what kind of social proof we think of commonly is testimonials. And testimonials are great, but I appreciate that we can't always have a testimonial depending on the nature of our organization. So what we actually want to do is have some external validation of your organization, and that can be achieved in multiple ways. So think about what helps you personally make your own purchasing decisions. Most of the time, it will come from some kind of social proof. It's either a friend or a family member speaking about you. And they could be speaking about you on social media, because a lot of people put their problems onto social media and ask them for them to be solved through groups or informal chats. That's a referral mechanism. Then you've got testimonials. If you are going to put a testimonial on your website, I would definitely suggest, if possible, to have a picture of the person that gave the testimonial and the name of the person, because that helps build trust with the website visitor. Then you've got reviews from external parties. So you actually might have a strategic relationship with an organization that is bigger or longer standing than you, and they have a they just have a little bit of they're known to people. Sorry, I just lost my words there. So because they have this reputation, they want you, you putting something from them on your website makes you appear a lot more reputable yourself. So reviews from external stakeholders are fantastic, or logos of your partners. If you've been featured in media podcasts of other organisations, then putting that on your website can also build your social proof. You might be registered with the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission, and you can put their logo on your website, and that's very good for donors. If you've won awards, and it actually doesn't matter if your award is super old, that's okay. Put it on your website, because it builds up your social proof to people that don't yet know about you. In summary, I want you to check your website for content and ensure that you use words and images well, refresh it regularly, and include social proof for validation. And on the social proof, just one more thing, make sure that you put that social proof on the bottom of all of your service pages and on your homepage, because sometimes people enter your website from lots of different links that they're provided with. So just make sure that you do have that social proof on those important key pages. Okay. So next, I've got a couple of tools here for you, is to test your website. So a healthy website is one that can be found through Google. And one way to test your site is to test its responsiveness. So how well does your website scale onto devices that are not just a desktop? So you've got so many devices now, but you also then have different browsers. You've got different devices, mobile phones, iPads. Definitely Google favors a mobile first website. So one that is responsive, that scales down to a mobile really nicely. And you will find that around nearly over 50% of people are accessing websites and the internet on their mobile phones. So if you can go to Google and just search test responsive Google, or type the link in that I've got here on the screen, and that's going to give you an idea of whether you're ranked well by Google for having a mobile friendly website. In the event that you're not, and you get a fairly bad score, you actually do need to do some work on changing that, because you will be punished in search engine results pages. You know, when you type in a query into Google and it comes up with all those results, that's called a search engine results page. Google features websites that, for a range of reasons, keywords are one, domain authority is another, responsiveness is one, and speed is another. There is a huge algorithm that Google uses, but these are the things that we know are really important to Google. So if you don't have a responsive website, you're likely losing traffic and visibility in coming up when people are searching for you. The other test that I've got listed here for you is testing your speed. Now, I've given GTmetrix here. It's a free tool The reason I've said GTmetrix is because you can actually put in the location of your organization so that it tests servers that are near you. So when you are testing your speed, if you did it through Google's own test, it might show that you have a low speed, and that's because it's trying to ping your website from a tower that's located overseas. So it is really important that when you're testing your speed, you can actually select where you're located to understand how the speed of your website works for people that are within Australia, within a particular state. So when you do that speed test, I don't want to get overly technical here, but it is important for the same reasons of your website being responsive. It is really important that you focus on some of those results, but some of them are very technical. So there are lots of different areas that GTmetrix are testing, and I want you to just look at load times as a basic. If you have an IT team, then you can get them to try and look at all of those other technical parts of the report and increase the website's performance over time. But I want you to look at page load speeds as the number one. I was on a website just last week, and it took 38 seconds to load. The only reason I stayed on it is because I was looking at it for a friend, but that is just, that's ridiculous. So 38 seconds just means that you've lost every single person that's visiting your website, because our expectation as website visitors is that a website must perform so much better than that. It needs to be within seconds. Well, under 1 second in most cases. So get these insights, find out how your website's tracking. It's not the end of the world if you get a bad score, but it's something to focus on as important for the health of your website. Okay, so next is checking your user experience. User experience is basically the way an audience or a visitor experiences your website. So that means that you need to have a website that caters for people before, during, and after they use your website. It's a customer first website. And that might sound a little bit confusing. So let me give you an example. If you're using a social media channel like Facebook or Instagram, and you're touting that you have an event coming up, you're promoting an event that's going on, and then you put in a website link, it goes to your home page, not the event page. So that's a terrible experience before they've decided that they want to engage with you. You've given them a link that takes them somewhere completely different to the messaging that you had on social media. So what you put on social media is really important, that it's a beautiful, seamless process for them to come and do the next thing. So if you post an event and you happen to have an Eventbrite third-party ticket holder, don't send people to your website, just send them to Eventbrite. Customer first during the website experience means that you do have those instructions for people. So if a form is completed on your website, it has to work, it has to go somewhere. A person has to get a message to show them, yes, we've got your message. Here's the expectation of us getting back to you. So how much time will it take for me to get back to you? So that's a customer first experience. You've told them that we've received your form, and we usually get back to you in, days, weeks, whatever it is. Another good example of customer first during their time on the website is that you give them directions of where to go next. And then customer first after a person has left your website is that if they did follow your calls to action, they did fill out a form, or they called you, you need to continue that experience for them. So you need to make them feel important, and you need to get back to them. I guess it's really simple stuff, but this whole experience of them online translates to everything that you do offline, off the website as well. You need to have simple navigation. It needs to be easy for them to go forwards and backwards throughout your website to find what they're looking for. Your menus need to be well placed. If you have a huge amount of pages that you're offering, potentially the use of a mega menu might assist you. The website absolutely has to be error-free. A few errors are okay, and they come up all the time. Bugs come up. Everything online is fallible, but it's important that you do review and test periodically, especially the really important things. And then I've put in here accessibility. So accessibility for disability organisations, for people that are working with older populations of people, or even younger populations of people, people that have vision impairment, all the different impairments that we can have. Is your website accessible to them, or have you put a little application on the website that might help their experience? A lot of the time we have, today especially, our devices take care of a lot of accessibility requirements, which is great because we can personalize them. But for some people, people with dyslexia, or people that find it hard to read text online, they may not have accessibility tools enabled on their devices. So you can provide those tools directly on your website. And what I've said here for user experience is that you can validate that with the people who engage with you, as a really simple way of understanding if you're providing the right kind of experience that your visitors will expect. Okay, so consider what your website is like for someone that's visiting for the first time, and validate it with a small, perhaps diverse section of people who already engage with you. Tip 8, and this is on the user experience journey as well, is checking your design. So I hate to say it, but not everyone is a designer, and I know a lot of people out there do their own websites, and that's great. More often than not, it looks like you have done your own website design, and that means you may have missed a few design principles which contribute to a better user experience for people. So good design equals a good user experience. It'll help determine if it is engaging. So just a few tips here. Make sure that your website reflects your brand. Try and have consistency across brochures, websites, social media platforms. Make sure that that's all consistent. A color palette. So sometimes we can have a lot of colors that we use, and that's great. It's really colorful, but a good use of color and accents on a website so that it's not too busy, that it makes good use of white space, that it's not drawing our eyes everywhere because there's so much color. So just don't overuse colors, use them well. Typography, I've talked about this before today, but it has to be effortless readability with a good use of headings and subheadings. Can't stress that enough. Make your imagery, your videos, your podcasts, make it engaging. Make sure that some of what you're doing is helping a person connect with your organization, feeling emotional about what you do, especially for donors. So the more engaging and eliciting an emotional response from someone is more likely to have someone donate to you. In summary, you want a website that is desirable, well laid out, with a great use of colors and white space that flows well. And again, I've put validation in here again. Check in with people who engage with you. Like, ask them, what do they think about the design of your website? What would their expectations be? And just on that, you've got two types of people that are engaging with your website. So one is people that have never seen you before, never heard of you before, and they've come in cold, as I'll put it. The other is existing users, existing participants of your service, for whatever reason, are coming back to your website for information. So checking in with the people that you already work with about what their expectations are will help you have a much better experience with people. Okay, so security and the back end. This is a big one for our organization. We work with nonprofits all the time, and when we first engage with new clients, especially our charities that don't have dedicated IT teams, we often find that there are very poor online practices going on when it comes to security. One of the biggest things we hear is, oh, no one will want to hack me. And the thing about people that hack websites is they go for low-hanging fruit. So it's basically a score on their board if it was easy. So any password that contains real words, dates, common symbol replacements, as in exclamation mark for an I, the number 0 for the letter O. It'll be hacked by brute force in about the time it takes to get ready for work in the morning. So there are just bots that are just working out there, crawling the internet and trying to hack into websites. So long, random strings of symbols, letters, and numbers will take centuries to crack. But if you have your business name, 123, don't do that. No real words, no Wednesday 2020, or the name of your CEO followed by the postcode of the organization. Please don't do that, because you are opening yourself up to vulnerabilities. If they crack the website, then they have a password that you're likely using across multiple systems. So it's a big no-no, complex random passwords, and never have an admin user using the username admin. Also a no-no. A good username and a complex password is going to save you a lot of trouble in the long run. Backup. So setting up a backup is important because you don't want to lose everything that you own. I won't go too much into it, but make sure that you do have backup happening on your website. Better still, make sure that that backup is happening outside of the website. There are tools, very common WordPress tools and other tools, where they take a backup of the website within the website. One, that takes up space, and two, it still leaves you vulnerable. So if something goes wrong, you're likely to lose it all anyway. So offsite backups are advisable. ReCAPTCHA. This is a system designed to tell humans apart from computers. So it assists you. A lot of the time you'll get spam, no matter where you are, no matter how no matter how much length you go to stop it. But what you can do is use reCAPTCHA, so that you can't be maliciously having a bot fill out a form that sends to you that's just spamming you. WordFence this is a security plugin for websites that use WordPress. So we are WordPress specialists at Digital Services Lab, so I do speak a little bit about WordPress. There are other tools for other systems out there, so please look those up. You could actually just look up something like WordFence for Shopify or whatever it might be, whatever platform you're using, and something will come up. So there should be other similar systems out there for other foundations. It provides various features and configuration options for site owners, and it helps protect your site from intrusion. So it provides what's called a firewall for your website. And some of the things it does is limit failed login attempts. So someone makes 5 login attempts, well, they can't log in again. Limits access to non-existent pages, which it reduces the ability for hackers to search for weaknesses that can be exploited. So just look, it's all technical stuff, but basically you can blacklist IP addresses, or it will blacklist them for you, so that people can't access your website. It's not just a matter of activating these plugins. You do have to do a little bit of work on setup, and you need to know what to turn on and how to configure it effectively. So out of the box, there's quite a lot of information. If you do email me after this session, I will give you some notes where you can actually get a bit more information about plugins like this. And Akismet is some anti-spam. So if you use a blog with comments turned on, you want to use a tool that's similar to Akismet. So it's a spam filtering service that filters spam from comments. And it's an external service that assesses comment content for its spamminess and marks it accordingly. Okay, so there's some really basics on the security in the back end, but it is important to ensure that you reduce vulnerabilities where you can. And it's important because this contributes to the effectiveness of your day-to-day operations. Okay, so moving on, tip 10 is to identify your goals. So now that we've gone through all of my tips, my suggestion is that you have some goals over the course of the next year that you implement so that you can build a better website and have a better experience for people that you connect and engage with. So I've just listed some examples of goals. So I think it's really important to have a strategy, and it needs to be one that can be fulfilled over time. And we're all often accidental IT people, or we always have a million things to do and not enough time in the day to do them. So my suggestion is have no more than 5 goals and try and tackle one to 2 goals every half a year. So if your goal 1 is to update your website, great. Specify what pages you're going to update, what new content needs to go on there, and what services are missing. So going back through that checklist that I suggested we do earlier, have a look at what needs to be done first. So making sure you have the right content on your website is probably the most important thing. Goal 2 might be that you want to sell more, service more, new plugin features, new menus. So make sure you've got that in there. Goal 3 is to set up success measures and analytics. This is so important because you can track absolutely everything that you do on your website, and the data is really meaningful. Today, when we have funders, they are happy to take data that includes the traffic that you get to your website, how long they stayed on your website, what kind of activities they undertook on your website. So there's a lot that you can do and measure and prove, which all contributes to the data that you have, and also how important your organization is within your community when you're talking to funders and donors. So if you can prove that you have 1,000 people visiting your website every month, 10,000, 100,000, however many people it is, then that looks really good to either a sponsor or a donor. And especially if you're going to give some traction to that sponsor by way of a logo or talking about someone that's helping you, that helps build you up. So make sure your measures and your analytics are in place. A 4th goal might be to interpret the results at the end of the year and then write a new strategy. So once you've looked at all that data, what else do you need to add to your website? So goal 5 is drive more people to the website, and that's everything that happens outside of your organization. So what are the activities that you're going to undertake now that we know who your audience is, you've updated your website. Now we want to make sure that when we drive people to the website, we're advertising in the right place, that we're talking about the organization to the people that need to hear it. And so your goal might be around, well, how do I now get people to come to my website that it's all updated? Okay, so that's the end of my top 10 tips for making sure that you have a healthy website, helping you engage, inspire, and connect with your audience. I did have one more poll that I just wanted to understand is, when did you last do a major update or review of your website? And I also have a wrap up and a gift for you, so stay around for this. So when did you do a major update or review of your website? Was it 5+ years ago, 2 to 4 years ago, within the last year, or never? And I'll just bring up the slide about my gift that I'm offering today. Okay, thanks, Jane. Okay, yep, so 45% of you have updated your website in the last year. That's fantastic. And then 20% have 5 years ago, and then 2 to 4 years ago, 35% of you. And never is 0%, so that's awesome. That's a really good result. So my gift today is my offer is, if you email me for a link to book in a free one-on-one half-hour brainstorming or strategy session to help you with your website, I'm offering that for the first 25 organizations. So everyone who emails me will also get my comprehensive notes from today's session. And I would be happy to sit through and we can have a brainstorming or strategy session about your website and have a talk about the things that you might do over the course of a year or immediately about that could help your website shine online and really help you connect and engage with your audience. So this is for not-for-profit organizations. So I'd love to hear from you, and please get in touch by Tuesday, the 6th of April. And thank you for your time. And if anyone has any questions, I think I can go back to Jane now.
Brilliant, thank you, Belle. Yeah, we have a couple of questions. Tony's asking, how important is it for recommendations reviews to be recent? E.g., if you only have reviews dating back 2 years, is it better to have them displayed or not?
I would say yes, display them. and remove the date of those reviews. So the reviews still stand, but I would also be going on an exercise to try and get some more current reviews.
And John's asking, if you're building a new website, what's the best platform to use if you're not a developer?
Okay, so if you're not a developer, then, see, this is a hard one for me. I like WordPress, and the reason that I like WordPress, but it is more complex to build. There are easy ways to do it because you can use templates and kind of fit your content into a template. The reason I like WordPress is because there is an abundance of people. If you do grow into the future and you need someone to support your website at some point down the track, then there are an abundance of people that rates aren't ridiculously high to support WordPress. WordPress powers over 35% of the websites in the world. That said, you might prefer to go with a drag and drop editor, but you will still need some type, you need to be savvy enough to be able to use these tools, even if you use a drag and drop like a Squarespace or a Wix. My one piece of advice in doing that without a developer is do purchase your own domain name, because that's an asset that you own. When you have a website on Squarespace or Wix or Weebly, you're actually renting infrastructure from them. You can never take that website with you somewhere else. And there are plenty of great Squarespace developers out there as well that could support you in the future, but there are fewer of them. That's just, and sometimes that can get a bit expensive. But yeah, so drag and drop Squarespace, if you want something that you own entirely, that you can take with you to any host or a multitude of developers, then I would say WordPress.
Perfect. And don't rely on Facebook, I guess, if you can help it.
No, definitely don't rely on social media. Well, I guess it depends what you're doing, but you do need to be careful about owning your own assets, your own digital assets.
Yeah. Alison is asking, do you recommend any accessibility tools?
I do. There is a tool. Now, I just have to look that up, actually. Sorry. Userway. It's called Userway, and they have a paid version and a free version. So you could definitely look at Userway as an accessibility tool, which gives a range of options for the users, and it sits on every page of your website, a bit like a header or a footer. And it allows the user to have the read out loud, increase the font size, dyslexia font, and a range of other tools, contrast, so a lot of color settings that people can use as well. Yeah.
Lovely. And Patrick is asking, can you recommend a best method for acquiring data from audiences on what they need or think of websites? Do we add surveys, for example?
Sorry, could you ask that question again? I just need to get my head around that.
Yeah, sure. I think Patrick's just asking how best to acquire data from audiences on what they need or what they think of our websites.
Okay, well, even though I'm a digital specialist, I do like the old face-to-face group questions. So I think that is definitely one way to go as people are coming into the office, maybe have 3 questions. If you're completely an online organization, then I would say, yes, you could just use a little survey on the site itself. Although I don't love it when sites use pop-ups, but you could use a pop-up. So you can have a pop-up on the exit of a website. So when someone's finished and they're leaving your website, you can have a pop-up that says, would you mind answering a few questions? And that way it's not interrupting their experience of your website while they're trying to use it. So you could do it that way as a clever tactic. Another one would be in the email signature to request people provide a survey. You can have the form within your own website. Strategically, that means the person is coming back to your website to answer the questions about the website, which means they've just experienced the website. I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, of course, you could use SurveyMonkey or any survey tools that you wanted. But if you have a WordPress website, I use Gravity Forms, and Gravity Forms collect data and work in such a way, just like SurveyMonkey.
Perfect. I hope that answered your question, Patrick. Excellent. I think that's all the questions we have at the moment. So thank you very much, Belle, and thank you everybody for joining us today. And if you'd like to get in contact with Belle, I'll be including her email and contact details in the slides that everybody will be receiving at the end of today. And do pop along to both of our Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand websites to have a look at what other webinars are coming up in the next few months. So thank you very much, Belle. That's been brilliant, really useful.
Thank you. And I'm also running that a marketing webinar in the future.
Yeah. In May?
That's in April.
April, sorry. April the 28th. Yeah. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're doing a Activate Your Marketing Action Plan then. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, excellent. So do head over to the website and sign up for that. That'll be brilliant. So thank you very much, everybody. And do take a minute, please, to fill in our quick survey that will be popping up at the end of this webinar. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day and see you all soon.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.